Well, back to our main story about the raid on the ship carrying aid into Gaza. Alexandra Lort-Phillips is an aid worker from Hackney in London, and she was on one of those ships taking part in the Gaza aid delivery. Her brother Charlie is in our central London studio. Thank you very much for joining us. Do we know which particular ship she was on?
She was on the Mavi Marmara, the one that we've seen in all the pictures and videos of it being attacked. So clearly we were very alarmed when this all unfolded in the early hours of Sunday morning.
Yes, indeed. Have you heard anything from your sister?
I've heard nothing from her directly. We have now heard from the Foreign Office that they believe she's in the prison outside Tel Aviv. I know they have a very hard job on their hands, but the initial place that I first heard this was on her Facebook page from someone else that had spoken to them. They have since called me to say that they think she is there, but they don't have a full list. So I know they're doing their best, but clearly it would be good to get firm clarification on that.
So in a sense, it's still a worrying, very worrying time, because you don't quite know for certain where she is.
Well, I mean, my parents are very stoical people. Thankfully, that's passed on to us as well. She's not going to do anything rash. She's not going to do anything stupid. We are, of course, concerned that she's stuck in a prison in the Middle East. That I think anybody would be. But you know, she's a very sensible girl. She's not going to do anything silly, and we're pretty confident that she'll be back safely soon.
You say she's a very sensible girl. How would she have reacted when the shooting started on the ship, and how will she be coping now if she is in that prison?
Well, I'd imagine she'd have been very shocked, and right now I'd imagine also that mixed in with that shock will be a certain element of defiance. She was on a previous land-based convoy, the Viva Palestina convoy, over which me and my sister had many quite frank discussions after the New Year. And when violence occurred in Al Arish, she was, the one telling everybody to stop and the one saying, look, there is another way to do this. I would imagine on the boat, given the fact it was 4:30 in the morning and the confusion would have been huge, she probably would have kept her head down. She's a very sensible girl, as I said, but I think she probably would have tried to persuade people, that violence was not the way. Having said that, as I've said to many of my friends and family before, to be in a situation where you're on a vessel in the middle of the sea and you're boarded at 4:30 in the morning, and from some of the video that I've seen, there was shooting beforehand, before anybody's feet touched the deck, it's a pretty terrifying situation. And there are, of course, going to be elements of people on these vessels that are more extreme, although I don't like using that word, than others. I know that the Israeli government has labelled them terrorists. Well, you also had a Nobel Peace Prize winner, or a Nobel laureate, I believe, on board. You also had an archbishop. You also had, frankly, very sensible, gifted people like my sister who they're not stupid, they're not insane, and they're not extreme.
I was going to ask you, what category would you put your sister into? Because, the Israelis are calling them terrorists and activists and troublemakers, and you would say your sister was simply an aid worker trying to bring some relief, presumably.
My sister went out on the Viva Palestina convoy, as I said, in January. The effects of the blockade that she saw and the experiences that were relayed to her by the people who live there have caused her since to give up her job. So she now has no job, and she has devoted herself full-time to this. I mean, when she sees something that she finds fundamentally unjust, she doesn't stand back and say, oh, well, I suppose there's nothing I can do about it, and the Israeli army do have an awful lot of guns, don't they, so I'm not going to do anything. She's going to stand there and she's going to say, no, this is wrong. The way you are treating these people is wrong. And she's going to stand up for herself. I think a lot of people criticise the members of this convoy for putting themselves in this position in the first place, but you have to bear in mind they're also carrying certain kinds of aids, such as building materials that wouldn't have been allowed through. Now, there is a security argument that they could use it to build, fortifications or something like that. But also, these are things that people need to use to rebuild their homes. And this is part of the reason, I think, why they were reluctant to take the offer, if you can call it that, from Israel to take it through Ashdod, because I don't myself, and I'm not an activist myself, and as I said, my sister and I don't always agree on this issue, but I don't believe that all of that building material would have got through and would have got to the people that need it. So I absolutely don't excuse.
She was obviously a woman with a cause, on a mission.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that you hear news of her very soon and you get some confirmation that she is okay and will be home. Charlie Lort-Phillips, thank you for joining us.